Dan Fortin graduated with a Bachelor of Civil Engineering degree from Carleton in 1978. Quite how a graduate of civil engineering ended up as president of IBM Canada is quite a story, and one which I'm sure that Mr. Fortin will help us with when he gives us his convocation address. Since joining IBM in 1978, Dan has held a number of prominent marketing and management positions, working his way up through the ranks, first as branch manager, then as general manager, then vice president of marketing, vice president of business partners. Since 2005, Dan Fortin has held the top job of president of IBM Canada Limited. He's responsible there for the strategic direction and the day-to-day operations of the IBM operation in Canada. To give you some idea of the complexity of the job, consider that he's in charge of 20,000 employees, with 2,500 of them at the Toronto and Ottawa software centres. And yet, amongst all these onerous duties as president of IBM, Dan Fortin also finds time to be acting chair for World Vision Canada's Board of Directors. World Vision is a charitable organisation dedicated to sponsoring children, and at a time when 5 million people die each year of water-related diseases, such as diarrhea and cholera, World Vision Child Sponsorship provides children and their families with access to safe water through well drilling, pumps, and training in hygiene and sanitation. Sponsorship also makes many more resources available to children and families in need, including improved health care, educational opportunities, skills training, and improved nutrition. Mr. Chancellor, in recognition of a distinguished career in engineering and business, for his international work for the environment, and for creating policies to support shared learning in the context of a global corporation, I request that you confer the degree Doctor of Laws honoris causa upon Dan Fortin.
By virtue of my authority, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Laws honoris causa.
Thank you, Mr. Chancellor, Mr. President and Vice Chancellor, members of the board, faculty, distinguished guests here this morning, and of course all of my fellow graduates. As I look out at all of you, I'm immediately struck with a number of images, perhaps late nights on campus, weekends, evenings in residence, student housing in the glebe, and I go on. And I'm struck with one overwhelming thought. For a rainy Tuesday morning, you clean up really nice. It is indeed a privilege for me to be here this morning. I'm so grateful to be recognized in such a fashion. It doesn't seem very long ago at all that I was sitting where you are, filled with expectations, excitement, ready and raring to go. I could have never predicted where life would bring me to, much less addressing you here this morning. What I do know 31 years later is how wonderfully well Carleton University prepared me for the unexpected, the undiscovered, the unknown. I have traveled throughout and worked throughout North and South America, throughout Europe. Of course, I've worked closely with graduates from hundreds, perhaps thousands of schools, many of them household names that are often thrown about. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here this morning to reassure you that you are graduating from one of the very best there is in the world. Our school is known not only in our formation of information and skill, but most importantly, for teaching us how to problem solve, to think, to tackle the unanswered, and to have an open mind for learning and always craving for more. You are walking out today as graduates of this school, Carleton University, into an era that is unmatched in the last century, perhaps centuries. Well, many of you would point out to me that times are tough. The economy's on its side and it's having a hard time getting back up. And for those of you entering the workforce, immediate prospects, perhaps difficult. But let me ask you this. Were you planning on taking a back seat on the bus? Was it your plan to play out an agenda that was set by someone else decades ago? Or is it your dream to set the agenda for the decades ahead of us? To paraphrase the famous words of Warren Buffett, it's when the tide goes out that you find out who is swimming naked. This is an unprecedented time, but it is also an exhilarating time, a time for new leadership and new minds, minds that have been schooled in how to think and how to learn, minds that are capable of problem solving, the problems and the complexities that abound in our world today. Let me remind us all that the current financial crisis has stolen the headlines of some remarkable changes that have been taking place in our world. And I dare say that this crisis that will end will only accelerate these changes over the coming months and years. I'm talking about a world that has shrunk in size, a network world where you have the opportunity to collaborate every single day, or perhaps compete with people oceans away. Much is said about our IBM's software and research development centers in Toronto and Ottawa, recognized as the very finest in the world. They are filled with some 2,500 researchers and developers, the best and the very brightest, just like each and every one of you. What is often misunderstood is that these people don't always work or hardly ever work with their colleague in the pod next to them. But they're working with teammates, with individuals. They're collaborating with people all around the world in real time, whether it be in the US or Europe, and today in China and India, just to name a few locations. Every day, shaping new ideas for our future. I'm talking about a connected world where there are close to 2 billion people on the internet, close to 1 trillion things that are connected on the internet today. Sensors that are embedded in everything from shopping carts to cars to even natural systems like our rivers. But I'm also talking about a world that is crying out for innovation. We don't lack invention, just look around us. We have technologies and new thoughts coming out every day. But we need you, each individual in this room. We need you and this generation to bring these inventions to bear, perhaps for business, but more importantly, for societal and environmental problems. Whether it's around climate change or responsible energy use, food safety or pandemic avoidance and management, there are so many global challenges and opportunities that await you to tackle them. You see, it's only when those two sides meet, invention, new ideas, but more importantly, deep understanding of need. When you see those two things meet, that is when you see innovation. That is when you see a society that moves forward in history. There's some terrific examples in our world today. Food traceability from farm to fork, smart energy grids that you read about, predictive weather patterns to anticipate natural disasters. But this can only be the beginning. This is the agenda that we are waiting for you to set for for future generations ahead of us and ahead of you. As I close, let me leave you with a few words of advice. Never stop seeking out new challenges. For some of you, your formal schooling may be complete, but I can assure you, for all of you, your learning has just begun. Seek out new opportunities, expand your knowledge, try new approaches, find a mentor if you don't have one already, stay on top of trends, find someone to collaborate with, not in your backyard, but somewhere in another country or overseas. Second, please never underestimate the importance of keeping to your integrity and your values. These things are not taught in many classrooms, but they will be absolutely invaluable both in your personal and professional lives, and they must be the foundation for our successful 21st century. And finally, embrace change. While this world needs you to be change agents, you know, the path isn't going to be easy. It'll require you to take risks and to share risks. It requires new ways of thinking and collaborating, doing things differently than they have done before. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where you come in. Our school, Carleton University, has prepared you extremely well for this. When you leave here, you do so with the knowledge and skills necessary to tackle the world's biggest problems and take on the world's biggest opportunities, and I know you will. I hope you embrace the challenge, and I know you will leave a world that you see today a much better place for our future generations. My sincere congratulations to each and every one of you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your time. Thank you.